Hello and welcome back to Business Vibes Only. I am Martika Lee, the founder and CEO of Just Mind Your Biz LLC. And today I have an incredible special guest. She is a nationally recognized criminal defense, trademark, and copyright attorney. She's going to be addressing all of our legal concerns and giving us advice on legal strategy. I promise you, you don't want to miss this. Hit that like and subscribe button. Entrepreneurs, you need to hear this. Let's talk business. Joining us today on Business Vibes Only is a top 40 under 40 lawyer recognized by the National Black Lawyers Association and known as the DUI Queen for her success as a trial attorney while serving in the office of the public defender. Now she channels her expertise as a 5-star rated criminal defense, trademark, and copyright attorney. With a passion for justice and community, she's here to share her insights on legal strategies for business owners. Please welcome Miss Vivian Williams, Esquire. Hello. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I appreciate you greatly.
Oh, no, thank you for having me. I love talking.
That's a good thing. I mean, I hope that's one of the reasons why you became an attorney, right?
Becoming an attorney was an accident, but I love talking, so it works
Okay,
out.
you know what? We're going to have to get to that because I didn't know that. Okay, we'll definitely have to get to that.
Yeah.
So, honestly, I'm just going to jump right in because I have so many questions. And from my clients, from a lot of entrepreneurs that I've had conversation with, very rarely are we able to just ask these legal questions and get the accurate answers from attorneys. So I'm just going to start first with, what are the common mistakes that small businesses make and how can we avoid them?
Thinking that they only need legal when they're in trouble. I think that's a common mistake everybody makes with legal or with attorneys. They're like, "Oh, I'm not in trouble." When I tell them I'm an attorney, do I need you? I'm not in trouble. And I'm like, I feel so bad because I just want to be like, you don't have to be in trouble. Yes, it's thinking that you need to be in a predicament first, so that something bad needs to have happened to you before you reach out to an attorney. Attorneys can be just like healthcare or medicine can be for your business. Preemptive and preventative measures are very possible and are extremely important, especially for small businesses. If you are working with a bad contract from the beginning, you'd be surprised not only how many deals you're missing out on, but how many of your deals are probably going sour because your contract is bad.
Yep.
Or how much money you're missing out on in other realms or in other ways because you just don't have that legal in place. Things you don't even know about. You're not going to think of the things I'm going to think of. Just like in your business and your niche, I'm not going to think of the things that you think of. And so I think it's extremely important to bring legal in early and not late. They should be one of the first 3 people you hire. I say 3 because I give deference to realizing that small businesses need money. So I have to tell people like, hey, paralegals or assistants can be extremely helpful to moving people forward in a monetary manner because it gets you on track. But legal should really be in those top 3, top 5. You shouldn't be waiting on them. You should try to get them first.
Yeah, so we should stop viewing attorneys as that, oh, I'm in trouble, now let me reach out to somebody, only in emergency situations. And you're right. And I'm glad that you brought that up because I myself need to change my mentality and perspective on when it comes to legal advice. And just to have somebody on retainer for everything, contracts included. So yeah, that's extremely important. I'm also trying to make sure that my clients understand the same things. I'm going to be pushing that same mentality. Like, no, I talked to Vivian and Vivian said, this is what we need to do.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you this. So according to the U.S. Small Business Administration, there are about 33 million small businesses in the U.S. and about 82% of them are non-employer firms. So that means sole proprietors, single member LLCs, what we call solopreneurs. Okay. So after forming your business legally, what should be the next step for solopreneurs?
So, absolutely getting with legal. But the other thing I would definitely say is most people do form LLCs. And so, the important thing is a lot of states don't require this, and a lot of states do. So, for the ones that don't require it, I like to throw it in. You need an operating agreement. You
Okay.
need an agreement whether your state says you need it or not. Every LLC should have one. In the state of Florida, it is not required. I have my LLC in the state of Florida, but I still put together an operating agreement. And the reason why is because even when you're working with yourself, you still need to know the rules of how you want your business to run. Because once you start expanding, that's not something you want to be playing catch up on.
That's true.
Yes. The other thing I would suggest that people start doing is an IP inventory audit or an intellectual property audit. And this
Okay.
is why I say you should reach out to an attorney. You may not have the funding in that moment to do it, but you also may not know what it is you need to be doing for your business. So, getting on the map in a general way with an attorney in the intellectual property or business law sector, they can sit down and say to you, okay, based off of your business, these are the things I think that you can do in the next few years or even in the next few months to help set you up legally in a positive way. Here's your inventory, here's your audit, and these are the checklist of things that you can start checking off your list.
Mm,
Um, Another important thing I say is contracts, contracts, contracts. Make
yes.
sure that you have a good and stable contract. You don't
Okay,
have to
hold
have
on. We got to
15.
pause and
Ooh,
make
ooh,
sure
ooh.
that they hear you one more time. Hold on. Say that again. Contracts,
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 contracts.
contracts. Yes.
Yes.
They are the vein. They bring the blood to all the parts of the body. And so you really have to understand how important they are. You may not need 17. Not every business requires you to have, even lengthy contracts. But
Mm-hmm.
having a lawyer-based contract out the gate, starting out, can put you a lot farther. The reason why is, for one thing, um, your confidence will soar. I guarantee you will feel differently about presenting that contract knowing someone who had legal eyes was on it than you just getting some random template off of a website,
Yep.
or you trying to create something yourself, piecemealing it together. You don't feel confident about it because you don't know what you're missing, and you don't know, your brain's thinking the whole time, I hope I covered myself for this. So those contracts are going to be extremely important. That will be the next step. And then the next step I would say is start getting your monies together. Make sure you know what your budget looks like. Make sure you know what your money's going to look like, where you want it to go, and getting investing in yourself and investing for yourself. So start putting together some monies for these services. Like, you can't afford it now, but you want to say in 6 months you think you can get someone to help you do this. You have to start putting the money aside in the beginning. Otherwise, you're just gonna keep pushing it off.
Yep. And you're right. I think that most solopreneurs, when they budget, first of all, if they budget, because that's a fight by itself, trying to get people to sit and budget. You have to set up a structure, a strategy, a plan. Um, but when they do so, they only think about either operating cost and marketing, never leaving any room for legal in the budget. So
Mm-hmm.
you are so right about that. And that's because, they're trying to minimize cost.
Yes.
And so when they make a list of priority, legal advice or making sure that, like you said, legal eyes review a contract, that's like on the low, that's low on the priority list.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem with that and trying to get entrepreneurs to understand is that you have all these websites that now you can go, and some of them are free for a template, some of them just a few dollars. And that's created this mindset of, oh, I don't need an attorney. I don't need anybody to look over this, right? That's really become the problem. The access to these templates that leave out so much information. As you said, you need an actual person with the experience to go through because every person is different. And these templates are just a general mock up for, like a one size fits all, and we know that doesn't work. So so you're right. That mindset for sure, and getting people to understand, put it in the budget for long term, put it in the budget. You kind of touched on this a little bit, but just because this post that I saw is kind of trending right now, I recently saw a clip of Tabitha Brown, and she was talking about how one of the first things she did is that she trademarked her name, and she also trademarked all her sayings, right? So now that she has all these partnerships and deals and agreements with large corporations, they have to pay her a licensing fee in order to use her name on products and materials or her sayings. So you did talk about this, but tell us a little bit more why it's so important to protect our intellectual property.
Oh, oof, this is the deep part. So so I talk about this a lot, and I love that video. I love that celebrities now are starting to talk about this stuff more out loud. I
Yeah.
think that it's causing a deeper conversation with the mass population that wouldn't have otherwise happened had they not have
Hmm.
been some of the starters. Cardi B mentioned it. She was like, contracts, contracts, contracts. And I'm like, yes, Cardi, thank you. Um, when Meg the Stallion talked about her trademarking Tina Snow,
Hmm.
all of this stuff is extremely important. And the reason why is because, as she said, you don't just get trademarks just to protect you, but you get trademarks to get money. You want money. At the end of the day, let's face it, let's stop pretending like we don't start businesses for the money. The
That's the
goal,
number one reason.
we want money. Like, it's okay. There is nothing wrong with wanting money. And I know a lot of people know that I'm in the church atmosphere a lot, so they're like, money. The Bible says, the love of money is the root of all evil. I would like to correct these statements from a lawyer and tell you that you need to read the wording and the vocabulary before you make an assumption of what's being said. It said the love,
Hmm.
and the love meant more so towards like it becoming literally the only thing you want to eat, sleep, and breathe, where it
Yep.
becomes something that just becomes too much. That's different.
It
But he
replaces God. It becomes something you worship. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's completely different from wanting money. There's nothing wrong with it. So, in knowing that, getting together your intellectual property like Tabitha did is a smart investment because, as she said, licensing agreement is a payment. Now I
Hmm.
get paid. I don't even have to make the product, I don't even have to go to the state where the product is. I just get to say, I know this is a quality product. I trust the quality of this product. And now this product gets to use the trust that I have built through my name and the trust that I have built in my trademark, which is what a trademark is. It is the trustworthiness to the population. It is what you look like. It is what your brand or your business looks like to the world. And then I get to slap my name on it and I get to say, hey, now I don't have to travel to Nevada. I don't have to go make those things over there in Tennessee. I don't have to go across the seas, if you live on the East Coast to the West Coast, to create this new thing. I can just say, here's the licensing fee. As long as you stay within the parameters of what I asked for, we're good to go. And that's the importance of it. Now, I will say this: she lucked up in a way because her name is also unique. I would
Hmm.
not trademark Vivian Williams.
I can
It's
trademark Martika Lee. I know I'm the only Martika
exactly.
Lee.
It's my name. I tell people, if your name is regular schmegular degular, don't do that. Do not trademark your name. It's a waste of time and a waste of money, and you are likely to get your application denied.
Hmm.
But if you have a unique name like Beyonce, okay, there, it's Beyonce.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get what I'm saying? Or like you said, Martika Lee. It's just not as a common of a name. My name is extremely common.
Right.
I'm not going to trademark Vivian. I have to come up with an alter ego type name, and many do,
Yeah.
and that's okay. Many do, like I mentioned earlier, Tina Snow,
Hmm.
which is Meg the Stallion's alter ego name, and that is trademarkable. Why? Because it's not, a regular schmegular degular name. So if you
Hmm.
do go down the path of trademarking your name or your sayings, make sure they're not too regular. But also don't get caught up in the don't get caught missing like Cardi did too with her and other things that
Ah, really? I
yeah.
did not know that. I
She
did
is
not
not
know
and
that.
cannot, nope, cannot. It's become too popular. So You want to there, and that's another reason why starting early is important.
Mm-hmm.
Now, mind you, there may have been other obstacles to hers, and in the legalese of it, I'm gonna tell you, she probably still would not have gotten it.
Okay.
But one of the major things was it was too popular.
Mm-hmm.
The word and the phrase okrr had become too popular.
Mm-hmm.
They're not gonna protect you when you become popular. It's not. They rather protect it when it's at the beginning stages, and it's harder for everyone to be using it. Um, so that's just a little snippet I threw out there. But yes,
Well, I'm glad you
protect
said
early.
that. I'm so glad you said that because, and you also said something I want you to repeat. That just kind of like stuck with me. You said that a trademark is like a trust agreement of how the world should see you or how you are represented to the world, something like that. What was that again?
Yes. So I often explain my clients are often asked what's the difference between copyright and trademark.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they protect two different things. I'll start there. I always tell people that you do need both of them most times. It is not usually enough to get one, but it depends on your business and different things like that. The major difference, however, is a trademark is your brand. It's what you look like to the world. It's the trust you create to the world. It is what you
Okay.
smell like. It is what you literally, there are smells that are trademarked. It is what you
Yeah.
um it's what you sound like when people see you coming. Like, for instance, with the Coca-Cola brand, you see that bright red can with the white
Mm-hmm.
Coca-Cola fancy writing across it, and you know that that's Coke. It's how you look, it's how you present. While
Mm-hmm.
copyright, on the other hand, is the works of your hands. It is the templates
Mm.
that you create, it's the books that you create, the logos that you create. And that's why it protects more of what it is that you actually create from what you look like versus what you actually look like in the market. And what people really buy, when you're buying Louis Vuitton, you know that the quality is there, but you also are buying the trust of the brand that the quality is there.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and I'm glad you explained that because I did not know the difference. And when you said you trademark a smell, and I'm thinking to myself, well, you know what? Yeah, like all this perfume that I have, they trademark
Yeah.
that smell. Now, how they go about doing so, who knows? That process, and I'm sure they have to list out all the ingredients and the mixture, whatever. But that just really it struck me like, okay, no, trademarks are very important. Okay, so forgive me. All right.
No, you're
I
fine.
didn't know you at the time that I started my application, but I know you now. Okay, so I'm gonna need your help because I couldn't find a person that I trusted. I saw a few trademark and copyright attorneys. I couldn't find a black trademark and copyright attorney in my area. That was another thing, and so I decided, you know what? Let me attempt to do this myself. Okay. Yes, even I make the same mistakes that all solopreneurs try to make, thinking that I know that I can learn off of what I read or what I video that I see on YouTube. I know I was wrong, but I was just trying. Okay. So forgive me. But earlier this year I started a initiative in hopes of trying to honestly bring the business community together, specifically black businesses, and kind of push for people to stop holding back knowledge and information that would benefit the entire business community. And I phrased it no gatekeeping, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I currently have a pending trademark application for no gatekeeping, and I've just now started to use it as I have an event coming up, an entrepreneur summit in which it is titled No Gatekeeping, and I hope to continue to do this and continue with this initiative going forward. But I, I I had a scam attempt, I would say. I didn't fall for it. So after I put in my application, maybe like 2 weeks later, I received a phone call. And when you do the application, just like you know, they tell you, hey, this is public information, so please be aware of scammers or fraudulent information that you might receive. But I received a phone call from a guy, and he was like, hey, I saw that you submitted your application. It's still pending, but the next step for you would be for you to pay $500 for you to actually start using the trademark. And I thought to myself, this don't sound right. Like, I don't remember seeing this step in the process, and everything that I read, even though I know I was wrong for depending on my own knowledge. Okay, I should have. went to someone like yourself, a professional. But it's like, this doesn't make sense. And so luckily I was actually doing something for a client at the time. So I couldn't even stay on the phone and have the conversation. But I expressed my concerns, and he said, look at the number on the phone that's calling you. He said, now I want you to go to the USPTO website, go to contact, go down to trademark. And I did exactly as he asked. And he said, now look at the number that's on the contact page. And it was the exact same number. And I don't know how they do it, how they mirror or mask the phone numbers, but he tried it. He tried to get me really good. I didn't fall for it, of course. And I now know that legally they can't accept payment over the phone. But, you know, things like that, I wouldn't have had to worry about. I would have never even had to second guess, okay, should I do this or not? Had I went about it the right way, had I contacted a professional and let Vivian actually do my process, or someone that is much more knowledgeable about this than I am, and I wouldn't have had that problem or that issue. But let us know, like, in these processes, what type of fraudulent activity, scams, should we expect? It just seems that once you go that route, you become a target.
I hate to say that, yes, you do. Like you said, because they tell you it's public record. When you form an LLC, there's a lot of scams, actually. Anytime you get a business new thing, copyright, there's going to be some scammers out there that's going to take advantage of the opportunity. I will tell you this, phishing is very easy. So they can basically overlap the fake number with the real number and make it look like it's the real number.
And that's what he did. Okay.
Exactly. So
And he probably used that line so many times before. Hey, look at the number that's calling you. Look on the website.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. And that's one of the ways you start realizing it. For one thing, they're not going to take any money over the phone. So if anybody tell you to pay anything over the phone, please understand it's not it. Another thing is it's not going to come from any site that's not the USPTO. And the reason why I say it like that is because if you look really hard, if you take and pay attention, like at the email accounts, or if you take and pay attention to the correspondence at the top, you will get things in the mail sometimes. You may get emails that have to deal with it. They don't have USPTO in their emails. You don't look and pay attention because you're flustered or whatever, but pay attention to that. Another thing you can pay attention to is they don't have it at the top. You'll see another kind of trademark name, like trademarks on call or something like that. And hey, we can do this for you. There is almost nothing else that is in the process that will come from any other site outside of the USPTO. And it's just not going to be. If it's not from the USPTO, it is fraudulent, period. There is no other correspondence that's going to be coming across your desk. The USPTO has not partnered with any third parties that they need to connect you out to. Everything is going to be done by the United States Patent and Trademark Office, which is what the USPTO stands for.
Right.
And so, yes, I got one. They send me emails. Hey, we could do this for it. And I'm just like, yeah.
You're like, See, but me not knowing, I'm looking at that like, okay, now hold on, wait, maybe. And of course, not knowing, like you said, to look for those clues. Look at the header. Look, where exactly is it coming from? So I can see how people easily fall for that stuff.
I will also say this, if there's anything that creates emergency, also see it as a scam.
Yeah.
The reason why is because the majority of the time, if you're opening your own business or you're filing a trademark, they're not going to alert you within 3 days or 5 days. The government can be slow, for starters. So that's the part of the process. And then even if they do alert you, they're not going to give you 3 days or 5 days because they know that's just not enough time for the average person to get themselves together. So if there's any sort of emergency, whether it is quick in time to come to you or quick in time for you to respond, it's usually not something that is viable or legitimate.
Okay. Yeah, and that is great to know. Now let's pivot a little bit to another platform filled with scammers, okay? And that is social media, all right?
Dun, dun,
So
dun.
I want to know, okay, as an attorney, I can't imagine how frustrated you get seeing all of this misinformation on social media, seeing all of these YouTubers, influencers that have absolutely no background in law at all, giving out legal advice. I want to know, like, what topics do you see most, or what are the ones that just really frustrate you most when you come across them on social media?
Ooh. So I really, really, really get into the LLC thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that is because I keep like saying to people an LLC is a business and it is a business entity and or designation. An S Corp is not. I don't care how many people tell you that it is. I know they're going to tell you that it is. That's because they are also confused, and that is
Yep.
okay. But an S Corp is not a legal entity. And what does
Thank you.
that mean? It means that if you formulate an S Corp, you had to have another entity first. An S Corp is a tax designation, which means it does have legal implications, but it is not solidly by itself a legal entity. I think that's the one that gets me the absolute most. I call it like sprinkles on the top of the cake because that's what it is. You start your business, you got your LLC, you now got pass through. You don't have to worry about certain taxes. You can get out of certain things. You can file certain things under your business and not have to, get paid back or expense it, different things like that. But then we sprinkle on top of it with the S corp now. Let's call the sprinkles. But you don't usually just sit down and eat a bag of sprinkles. you have you have the cake first. And yes, so an S corp is not, for legal purposes, an entity. The entities that exist are an LLC, a corporation, which is a C corp, or some form of partnership, and that can be split up into multiple phrasings of how it's done. But you're going to fall mainly between those three entities, or fourth technically is sole proprietorship. So those are the legal entities that exist. Are there, micro versions or little pieces or snippets of different ones? Absolutely. If we got into all of that, we'd be here all day. But those are the four major entities, and none of them are S corp.
And you know what? This idea on social media that S corp fits everybody. Like this, I have to man, I have to really educate most of my clients about that, whether they should be LLC, S corp, whether they should be sole proprietorship and then transfer to a different entity. There's so much misinformation, but the idea itself that, when as soon as I get started, I mean, let's really talk about this, because this is what really makes me upset. Before having any type of business plan, structure,
Oh,
budget,
oh,
um, no advice. You haven't went to a consultant like myself. You haven't been to an attorney like Vivian. You have none of that. Your first thought is, "Oh, I have an S corp." No, you don't. No, you don't. What do you mean you have an S corp? Well, I filed it, and then when you go into that, as soon as they start, describing their S corp, because they think it's a legal entity, right? And then you ask, well, okay, well, where are your documents? Where are your filings? Where are your articles of organization? Where are your operating agreement? They don't know nothing about that.
no,
Nothing about
no.
that. And somehow they are, because of social media. So I would say somehow, but we know it's social media. They are filing elections for S corp without even having, like you said, the cake, without even having the foundation.
The part that they don't understand, though, is the government's ignoring it. And I know that sounds really mean. Like, I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not here to like talk, but the
Tell the truth.
glamorification and glamorous look, lights, cameras, action,
Mm-hmm.
like of entrepreneurship is just too much. We have over glorified and oversimplified the process.
Yep.
When you make your mind up to do anything, of course it becomes easy. So I'm not going to say, oh, it's not easy because, everything in life has to be hard. I'm not saying that either. But I am saying that the reason why things come slightly easier to some people is because they made up their mind, period.
Mm-hmm.
And their mind making it the reality telling them that this is the reality, period, is really what's making the steps move forward. But the whole glamification stuff that, oh, this could just happen overnight, and tomorrow you'll have $10,000, and you'll the next day you'll be a millionaire. And
So we're all seeing the same false claims. We're all seeing it, right? Because it's not just me when I scroll by.
I have to woosa. I have to woosa. I be like, I have to pull. I gotta pull Whitley out sometimes. Relax, relate, release, because I spend my time like, what do you mean? Stop making people think, oh, and tomorrow you'll be no. It's no, that there is no overnight success. I promise you, those people worked for that, and the success came after years, or even if it's not 10 years, there still was a process. There still was, like you said, an operating agreement, a plan. They didn't just wake up, I'm gonna sell this. Oh, I'm rich. Believe me, I know they all wish that would have happened to them, but that's not how it happens. We have over glamorized and simplified it to the point, and then just also made it outlandish. Because now the site's like, if you don't wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning and go buy a baby tiger, then you're not successful.
Right. Or I think we talked about it because you're the one that I didn't know it was called glamour entrepreneurship. You put me on to that term and that phrase, glamour entrepreneurship. But I knew exactly what you meant when you first mentioned it to me. We talked about a little bit before this idea, quit your job, right? You're not a real entrepreneur, supposedly, if you don't quit your job, put all your eggs in a basket, take that risk, and you're going to be a millionaire tomorrow. Yes, and that's not how it works.
No.
I believe in risk, but it has to be calculated.
And it has to be a risk you are willing to take. Everybody takes on risk and anxiety of risk in different ways. If you know that's not the way you set up, stay at that job. I hate that we've gotten into bashing people for 9-to-5s.
Yep.
I guarantee some of y'all are still on the 9-to-5 that y'all forget to put on y'all YouTube channels. Like, let's stop it. It annoys me because it's setting up so many people for failure when they could be successful, because you have just glamorized this idea of just, hey, if you think it, it can be. Mind you, the Bible said, as a man thinketh he is. However, it does not say delusion.
No, and it says faith without work is dead, is what it says. There's a process. You have to do the work.
It's got some things like, and then I think the other thing that gets lost in the sauce is that we get so caught up on, well, I can't give it my all, and so that's why I have to quit my job, or my job's getting annoying. I get annoyed as an entrepreneur with my job too. It's not all moments where I'm like, I get to do that. Sometimes I'm frustrated too. You have to be in a place where you can do that. Quitting your 9-to-5 right out of the gate, you don't have an emergency savings, you don't have anything built up, is not the greatest risk, the best risk for everyone. Some people it works for. Some people it works for. I'm not going to say that there aren't some people who have slept in their car and made it. But you can eliminate a lot of your anxiety, a lot of your risk, if you fund your dreams with your 9-to-5.
Yep. No, I've seen it happen. I've had clients in which they were like, okay, all right, I need your help. Let's get the business going. And I put in my 2 weeks notice. Wait, what? So how are we going to take care of personal expenses while also growing the business? And you have no income coming in, right? I've seen it happen. No, I'm glad you mentioned this, because this is well overdue and this needs to be talked about. And I will tell you myself, I am a senior analyst full-time still. I work in tech still. I do coding and computer programming. I analyze large data sets all day long while running my business, while talking to you on this podcast, while also doing my nonprofit, right? I tell people and to a lot of people, they say, oh, you're doing too much. Well, entrepreneurship just isn't for you. That's okay. Right. If you think I'm doing too much, then all right, this is just not for you. But I ask people all the time, how bad do you want it?
Yeah. And
how bad you want it? If you,
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Sometimes that means working at night. Sometimes that means working in the morning when you have, before you go to work. Sometimes that means working on that Saturday you went to go to brunch. And that's okay, you know, like you said, it's a different journey. I think I told you the book too, the originals. I never remember the
You
full name of the
did.
book.
I wrote it down, but yeah.
But yeah, I love that book because it talks about and I don't normally like talk. I love to read. I think that's one of the beautiful things. But it's called The Originals, and it's a book about entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why it I love it so much is because I don't know if you've heard of Warby Parker, but Warby
Mm-hmm.
Parker was one of the first eyeglass or eyewear brands to, and I'm looking the book up, sorry, but it's one of the first eye care brands to decide to sell online. They sold glasses online well before anybody else was selling glasses online. And they're the original concept behind matching your glasses and selling them online. And the book is called The Originals: How Nonconformists Move the World by Adam Grant. And the reason why I like this book is because it basically breaks down, you know, mindsets and things around business and entrepreneurship, but it focuses on entrepreneurs who never quit their job. And it tells you how these big companies like Warby Parker, which is a big company to this day, um, those CEOs, CFOs still had their jobs well into their success of these businesses. They were still working as CEOs or executive assistants or executive directors at their current jobs while also creating Warby Parker. And they're not the only brand. There are many big name brands that are throughout the book that they discuss. And they talk about how, on average, believe it or not, those entrepreneurs who stay in their job are tend to be more successful in entrepreneurship, have higher return rates, and last longer in the market than those
Yeah.
who quit right out the gate.
And I believe it. I mean, we hear it all the time how, like a lot of these tech companies, they started as a small group of individuals that were working for someone else, right? And while working at whatever company they were at, they formed their business. They stayed working that job, used their income to fund the business. And that takes time. So that can take years, but they
Mm-hmm.
continue to pour and fund into the business until the business itself was sustainable and grew enough that they actually could. Because this is really what the conversation that I have to have with solopreneurs is, as a consultant, I now have to advise them on how to budget personally and for their business, because most of the solopreneurs that I come into contact with, they're not budgeting their personal expenses, which is the reason why they didn't think to budget for the business. So now we have to sit down and go over the numbers. Okay, how much do you need to cover your personal expenses?
Mm-hmm.
And then how much do we need to pour into the business for operating costs? And then, of course, to invest in growth, right? To
Mm-hmm.
scale, right? Um, so then what happens if you decide to quit your job and you're not paying rent or mortgage? What, the car note, utilities, what happens to that? And you're like, oh, I'm just going to go all in on the business. Like, it's I can't, I don't even know the right word for it.
Definitely peer pressure.
it's
It's definitely peer
it's
pressure.
no, like you said, it's peer pressure, and it's this mentality that social media has made them believe, that
Yeah.
that's what's necessary and that's what needs to be done, and it's not.
Yeah.
So
It does. And it just makes you think like you're behind the curve if you're not, or something's wrong with you if you can't, or
yeah.
you're somehow mediocre. Um, it baffles me, to be frank. But I am a big, big advocate for it. You'd be surprised how much you don't go into debt. You'd be surprised
Mm-hmm.
how much money you can build, how much investment money you can build. You can even start investing to help your business. And I don't
Yep.
just mean like investing in things, but like investing in the stock market, because now you
Mm-hmm.
have the leftover income to put yourself in just a different position than you would have likely been. So yeah, don't fall for the trick. It is a trick. Now that's the biggest scam. It is a scam, as I like to
Mm-hmm.
say. And please, 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 think about it. I'm not saying it's impossible to do, but I'm saying it's not for everybody.
Yeah, it's not impossible. And you know what? And for the stories that I've seen for people that did take that risk and had overnight success, because it does happen. It's very rare, extremely rare, but it does happen. Most of the time, they lose it all because they didn't go through the necessary steps. And when they finally got it, they didn't know how to handle it. They didn't know how to
Didn't know
manage
what to
it.
do. Yeah,
And then
yeah.
they lose it all. They start from scratch. Some of them are able to rebuild, some of them aren't.
Some are not. Yeah, lottery winners. The
Yep.
greatest story of lottery. Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
exactly that. So I just have one more question for you, and I just want to know. So, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs as far as developing a long-term strategy?
A long legal term strategy would
Yeah.
definitely be, as I mentioned before, that legal audit, getting that up front from the beginning.
Okay.
And that's subject to change. I was just having this conversation with another client yesterday. You can start off in one position, and in a year or two, or 3, 5 years, 10 years down the road, you're in a different legal position. That's okay.
Okay.
Please realize that that is actually normal. There's nothing wrong with your business. And if you're not changing in that kind of way, then you're probably doing something wrong in your business.
Okay.
And the reason why I say it like that is because you can get in one market and never know how it takes you or pivots you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the original thought of Disney was not even what Disney ended up doing. And you find he started out with a little mouse on a steamboat, and the steamboat idea got lost in the past, while Mickey then became the, you know what I'm saying? So it just,
Yeah.
and if he hadn't have learned how to legally pivot and start protecting Mickey in and of itself and not the whole idea or different things legally, he wouldn't have been able to do that. So getting with legal at multi steps. Legal doesn't always have to be um, someone, like I said, that you need when you're in trouble in 2 or 3 years up the line. Even if you don't think there's anything you need to check on, call them up. Hey, could you do a legal audit for me? Is there anything in my contracts I need to be looking at? Any intellectual property I'm missing protecting? Any assets I'm not holding? Any things that I could change that could make me more legally sound? And if you have someone in your corner, such as myself or other business lawyers, that's what we're going to be doing with you throughout the life of your process. Disney has multiple lawyers on site, and there are some who literally just sit down and look at, are we following the rules this week? Did we follow this statute that changed last year? Did we protect this new asset that we got accidentally because we didn't know it would hit? I mean, look at Black Panther. Disney owns
Mm-hmm.
Marvel. Nobody
Yep.
expected Black Panther to do it. They actually did not even advertise it the same amount that they advertised other stuff. But
Right.
Black Panther took off in a way. So now, were we protected? Did we do this? Is legal on it? I guarantee legal was working overnight from trying to put stuff in.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, just making sure that there is always some concern for legal, and that you reach out. Even if you can't afford the services at the time for the full services, getting a legal
Mm-hmm.
audit is always cheaper. It costs you less to just have me on the phone for an hour and look through things than it would be for your services, but that's just as important. Like you said, acknowledging the budget, knowing what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the important part. Yeah.
And I know, I'm sorry. I know I said that was my
No,
last
you're
question,
fine.
but you
Yeah.
you really just made me realize I think that the trust is broken with attorneys and
Mm-hmm.
clients, with attorneys and entrepreneurs, because the thought that comes to our mind is, it's too expensive. They're trying to work me over.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Mm-hmm.
trying to take advantage of me. We don't know what the cost should be.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know the difference between, okay, like this is accurate, this is in the range of what it should cost to seek legal advice or for a contract proposal, or we just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that unknown is the reason why people try to do it themselves, even if they could afford it. They don't know they can't afford it. That's the thing. They have no clue. It's just an area that's just not touched on most, and they'll figure out how to afford it if there was a criminal issue, because we
Mm-hmm.
put that
Mm-hmm.
higher on the list as far as priority, but not to protect our business. So, thank you.
Yes. Yes,
Thank you
you're
so
very
very
welcome.
much. I
You're
greatly
very
appreciate
welcome.
you. I want y'all to do me a favor. Please follow Vivian Williams on all social media platforms. It is at Vivian WESQ. Is that right? At Vivian
Yes.
WESQ, or visit her website, and that is vwilliamslaw.com. I went on your website and I saw that you have a free checklist for entrepreneurs.
Yes.
So I'm going to add that link to the description so people can go on there, sign up for your mailing list, and get that free checklist. So yeah, thank you so very much. Thank you for putting up with me and all of my questions. I greatly appreciate you.
No, this was fun. I'm glad to be on, and it's exciting to be able to help people out as much as I can. And crazy enough, it's funny you said criminal law. I do that too. So
Yeah, I know. I know. I pray I never need you for
you
criminal
know
services, but
that I do. When people say, "I hope I don't need you," I'll be like, "I hope you don't either." Not on that side, you know.
it
I
wouldn't hurt
understand.
to retain you to cover all areas, trademark, copyright, and criminal, just in case.
But just hope you didn't do anything fraudulent. But you know, if you did, you know, come on
Right.
over.
Thank you once again. Thank you all for watching, and we'll talk business later.
Bye.